Is the iPhone 6S worth buying in 2020? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, and this is the iPhone 6S. Now this device has been out for quite a long time now, but actually, even now in 2020, you can still buy this device for free from a variety of different prepaid carriers. And I know that many of you that watch my videos that are looking for a decent budget option might still be considering this phone, which is why I picked it up. Now, the device currently retails for $119.99 from Amazon Renewed. So if you do want to go the Renewed route and get a device that's either been previously used or was returned and then has since been refurbished and then offered as renewed, then you can definitely save quite a bit of money. Now, I will be leaving a link in the video description to where you can pick this phone up from Amazon. And this is the GSM unlocked version of the phone. So in the US, it's going to work with AT&T and T-Mobile. They also have other variants of this phone available on Amazon Renewed for other carriers too. So you'll just have to pick the version that works with your carrier. But again, I paid just $119.99 for this device. Now, it did not come with the factory box. It just came with a generic box, a generic lightning cable for charging and data transfer, and a generic wall adapter. But you can see that the condition of this device is actually quite good. Everything looks really nice. It has some scratches on it, but overall, nothing too bad and nothing that would distract you from using the phone. Now, when I turn off the display, you can kind of see some scratches. There you go. You can see it right there, for example. So there certainly are scratches on this device. So when they refurbished the phone, they did not replace the glass on the display, but I don't really expect them to do that considering how inexpensive this phone is being offered at. But just know that if you do decide to buy this phone unlocked from Amazon Renewed, you might get a phone with some scratches on the display. You might get a phone that's in absolutely perfect condition. It really depends. But at the end of the day, you're still getting a phone that is very usable. Another thing you might be concerned about too with going the Renewed route is the health of the battery, because as you know, batteries degrade over time. Now, I actually checked already, but you can see here by going over to battery health, the maximum capacity is at 100%. So that's good to see. And I'm not sure if they did a battery swap as part of the refurbishment process. I'm not sure, but good to see that the battery still is in decent condition. Now, again, I don't know if this phone is 4 years old. I don't know if it's 1 year old because they still are selling brand new iPhone 6Ss. So it's really hard to tell the exact age of this device. I'm sure there's somewhere I could probably look that up. I'm just not aware of it. So if you know of a way that I can figure out when this particular device was manufactured, then I'd love to know. Now, I'm using the phone with Cricket Wireless and the experience has been really smooth and easy. I literally just took my activated SIM card, put it in the SIM slot, and things immediately began working. Now, the phone features a 4.7-inch display, and it is an LCD display at a resolution of 750 by 1334. So kind of a strange resolution there, but pretty close to 720p. It features a PPI of 326, so a pretty decent PPI here. So you are going to be getting pretty sharp images here on the display. We're getting a 16:9 aspect ratio, and then we're getting a screen to body ratio of 65.6%. So no doubt do we have pretty large bezels on the top and bottom of the device, but we do of course get a home button. So that's a feature that's been missing from many of the new iPhones for quite a while now. But it is nice and convenient if you do miss Touch ID, because you can use that to quickly unlock the device and authenticate various banking apps and of course use Apple Pay. Now up top here with the device, we're getting a 5-megapixel front-facing camera, and I'm actually going to be doing a re-review of this phone. So probably in a few weeks, I'll be putting out that review. So in the review, I'll show you photo and video clips that I took with the device. But from my experience, the phone does take very decent photos, especially for a phone at only $119.99. Then on the back of the device, we just have a single 12-megapixel rear camera. So there is no portrait mode with either the front or rear cameras on the phone. Now there's no wireless charging with this. We do get 32 gigabytes of internal storage, which is decent, especially for the price. Now out of those 32 gigs, you are going to be getting around 23 gigs of available open space. So I would say that's pretty much the bare minimum in 2020. I couldn't imagine getting a device with any less than 23 gigabytes of spare space. And especially since this phone does not feature a micro SD card slot, you're pretty much stuck with that unless you want to use cloud storage. Now the phone features 2 gigabytes of RAM and features the Apple A9 processor. Now what's interesting is that despite this device having such a low amount of RAM and a very old processor, I did run an Antutu Benchmark test, and you can see that the score is actually pretty impressive. So I got an overall score of 189,605, so that's dramatically better than most devices that I cover on this channel at that price, so something interesting there to keep in mind. Now as far as the video recording resolution goes, the rear camera maxes out at 2160p at 30 frames per second, and the front camera is 1080p at 30 frames per second. The device features a battery capacity of 1,715 milliamp hours, so certainly a pretty small battery, but you do have to keep in mind that the Apple A9 processor is a very efficient processor, and we're getting a pretty tiny display with this device, and it doesn't feature the highest resolution ever, which does make the device more power efficient. Now the software on here is iOS 13, so the latest and greatest version of iOS. And to my understanding, this phone is supposed to get iOS 14 as well. So you should expect to have the most secure version of iOS for at least another year or so. So those are the specifications of the iPhone 6s. Let me know what you think of those. I mean, of course, 2 gigs of RAM is not very impressive, but generally iPhones don't require quite as high of RAM as Android devices. That doesn't mean that one's better than the other, that's just the way it is. This having 2 gigs of RAM is probably more equivalent to an Android having 3 gigs of RAM. And you've probably noticed that in 2020, we have many brand new Android devices selling for around the same price as this, at around that mid $100 price range, and you're getting 3 gigs of RAM with those phones. Now, even back when this phone was new, it came with some really nice build materials. So on the entire back of the phone, we're getting this nice aluminum material and going around the sides of the device as well. But you can see on the left side here, we have the mute switch, and then we have the volume buttons. Then on the right side of the phone, we have the slot for the SIM card, and we have the power button. Then on the top of the device, there's nothing. Then on the bottom, we have the headphone jack, we have a microphone, we have a lightning port for charging and data transfer, and we have a speaker. So if you are looking for maybe a device to use almost as an iPod, or a smaller music player, then the iPhone 6s might also be a good option to consider since it does feature that headphone jack. And then on the back side of the device, we have the camera module, we have the flash, we have the Apple logo, and then iPhone S branding. So pretty awesome overall with the phone. Now here's how the phone compares up next to the iPhone 11. So you can see that when I put the bottom of the display on the iPhone 6s at the bottom of the iPhone 11, there's no doubt that the iPhone 11 has a significantly larger display. Now both of these phones actually do feature LCD displays, but it does seem like the LCD display on the iPhone 11 is a bit more saturated compared to the iPhone 6s. And to be honest, I almost prefer the level of saturation that we're getting with the 6s's display. Now we'll try a quick phone call here to see how this works. I do have my visible SIM in my iPhone 11, so we'll try this right now. And here we go. Hello? Hello? So calling works nice and smoothly, of course. We'll try out iMessage. So iMessage is faster than ever on this phone, despite it being a decently old device. I'll send some emojis back, and you can see that it was showing that I was typing on this device, and then there you go, it sent the other message back very quickly. Now if you like to use Instagram, then just know that Instagram still does run very smoothly on the iPhone 6s, despite it only having 2 gigs of RAM and being an older phone. So that works really smoothly. Stories work really smoothly as well. So you're going to be able to quickly navigate around your various stories and other content on Instagram. And then if you want to create a story, then you can easily do that too. So I'm creating a story here on my iPhone 6s on Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to Kevin Breeze. On my iPhone 6s on Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to Kevin Breeze. I think it would be tough also to find a phone in this price range that has microphone and video quality as good as this device. I mean, it really does have nice looking cameras. Like I said, when I do the 2020 review for this phone, I will be going deeper into the photo and video quality, so keep that in mind. But you can see even in the viewfinder how crisp and clear everything looks. So certainly this phone has aged very well since it was first launched. So is the iPhone 6s worth buying in 2020? That's the big question that you were probably wondering when you came to watch this video. And I do think the phone does have quite a bit going for it. The first thing this phone has going for it is that it should receive quite a bit of software updates in the future, despite it being an older device. So we know for sure it's getting iOS 14, so you're covered for that. I don't know about iOS 15 or 16, but at least you're getting one more newer version of iOS beyond iOS 13 with the iPhone 6s, which is really pretty incredible considering the age of the phone. The second thing this phone has going for it is that if you are somehow concerned about the battery degrading over time, you have the ability to take this phone into an Apple store to get the battery swapped out for a brand new one. Of course, you have to pay for that, so budget that in when you consider buying the phone. But unlike other phones from other companies, where they don't necessarily have a battery swap system in place and they don't have local stores that you can necessarily go to get that done, it's nearly impossible. Like for example, I don't think you can really contact LG and ask them to replace the battery on your LG G6. They would just tell you to go buy a new phone. But for Apple, if you want to get the battery replaced on this phone, you just go into your Apple store and they'll take care of it for you. So that's another thing that will make the life of this device extend even further. And then finally, the last thing this phone has going for it is that even though it is an older device, it still takes decent looking photos and videos, which like I said, I'll dive into more in the review coming in a few weeks. And the performance of the device is still quite decent. So web browsing is still decently smooth despite the phone being an older device. So if you do a lot of that, it should be a decent experience. So my point is that despite the phone not having the most up-to-date or current specifications, it still does perform decently well, especially for a phone in its price range. I would say that the biggest thing that this phone has that's not going for it is that it has just 32 gigs of internal storage. But then again, at this price range, at around $119.99, you can't really find too many phones that offer more than 32 gigs of internal storage. But I suppose if you did go for the LG G6, for example, then you at least have the ability to put a micro SD card in the phone to expand the storage. So it really depends on whether you think 32 gigs of internal storage is good enough for you, and if you think using cloud storage is a realistic way to expand the storage capacity on your phone. But I hope you enjoyed this video about the iPhone 6s in 2020. Make sure to check out the link in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing and to buy it on Amazon, and I'll see you in the next video.